Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Surina and today I join you from my egg chair. I'm a junior doctor and I like to make these videos in my spare time, so thank you for joining me. Today I thought we could have a chill, chatty, sit-down sesh. I went to a Christmas party last night and had work early this morning. I still had glitter on my face. It wasn't even that much of a late one, I mean it was just dinner. But any nights out on school nights when you're my age is an extreme sport, so I'm feeling pretty tired. Got my iced coffee, which it's actually not too bad. Yours are definitely still better, Mum. I thought we could go through some of my favourite things of 2021 as this year draws to a close. I recommend loads of content and products in my fortnightly-ish newsletter, so if you're interested in that, make sure you subscribe. The link will be in the description below. But without further ado, let's jump into this video. Okay, so first up is books. I've got 2 fiction and 2 non-fiction books that stood out to me this year, and I'm going to start with what was probably my favourite book of the year, which was The Third Door by Alex Banayan. The title of the book, which I've got on my phone because I left all of my books in England sadly, is The Third Door, The Wild Quest to Uncover How the World's Most Successful People Launch Their Careers. And I know what you're thinking, we've heard it all before, we all have to wake up at 4 AM and meditate and then express gratitude and work out 3 times a day and then we will be successful, blah blah blah. But it's not like that. This story is about Alex. He begins as a medical student and he's really not feeling it, and he's in the library revising one night and comes across a book by Bill Gates and is basically just blown away by his success and really intrigued as to how he got there. From this point, he becomes fascinated by how successful people got to where they are, and he becomes completely fixated on this idea of finding successful people like Bill Gates and including Bill Gates and interviewing them to ask them exactly how they did what they did. The title of this book, The Third Door, is based on this premise that there are 3 doors that we can access to go get what we want or achieve something we want to achieve. So the first door is the door that anyone can try and get through. It's the one that everyone is trying to get through, and so therefore there is a long queue and they might never even get there because they're waiting so long. The second door is the one that's guarded by a bouncer, but if you know him or her, then you can pay a little bit of money, you can drop some names or know the right people, and you can kind of slip in that way, which not many of us have access to. And then there is this concept of the third door, and the third door is not very visible, it's not obvious, it's kind of a back door that you wouldn't know about unless you were looking for it. But with a mixture of working hard, working smart, and a lot of perseverance and a little bit of luck, you'll be able to figure out where it is, even if other people don't see it, and then you can slip in and get in that way. And it's this third door way of doing things that Alex really focuses on in this story. What totally threw me about this book was the sort of 2 layers of learning in it. There was the first layer, which was Alex actually meeting all these people and the advice that they were sharing. But then the second layer was the wild and chaotic journey of Alex actually finding these people and how he managed to get into the third door time and time again to get these absolutely incredible and insanely successful people to talk to him. This book made me laugh, it inspired me, it even made me cry at times, and that's very unusual all from one book, so I really recommend it. The next book in my 2021 favourites is The Courage to be Disliked by Ishiro Kashimi and Fumitake Koga. And this book was very unique, or at least I've never read a book like this, because it was basically set up like a dialogue between 2 people. So there is the youth who is very dissatisfied with life and just wants answers, and then there is the philosopher who is very wise and calm and collected. And the whole book is laid out pretty much like a script. The knowledge bombs that this philosopher dude drops to the youth are based on Alfred Adler's teachings. He was a psychologist / doctor back in the 1800s, and the general vibe that this philosopher portrays based on Adlerian psychology is about kind of shifting the blame away from external circumstances and past trauma and shifting it more towards the individual and empowering them to realize and take control of their circumstances and their emotions. One of the core premises this whole book sort of hinges on is the Adlerian belief that all problems are interpersonal problems. In other words, all problems we face arise from our relationships and the difficulties and misunderstandings that we experience within them. So for example, he talks about how loneliness is not about being alone, it's having society and communities around you and you feeling excluded from them. He also talks about how happiness isn't just about what you achieve or how much money you make. It's about the society around you and you feeling like you're contributing to it. I think this book is quite daring in a way, because we live in a time where we talk a lot about how people's potential and abilities are limited by their upbringing or their past traumas or the discrimination and preconceptions that are forced upon them. And I think that sort of takes the power and agency away from that person. This book actually dares to give some of that power and agency back to the individual, to show that they have the control to overcome these limitations that they themselves or society puts on themselves, and to actually change things and move forward. And I'm all about that empowering stuff. The next book is a fiction book. Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo was one of my quarantine reads, and I literally devoured it in less than 2 days. It was so good. It follows the story of a struggling journalist who gets asked to interview this once very successful but now quite reclusive Hollywood star, Evelyn Hugo. Her life story and the way she tells it had me absolutely hooked, and it surprised me with twists I was never expecting. Important issues such as feminism, what it meant to be a woman in the film industry, LGBTQ, were all interwoven into this very glamorous and totally absorbing story. I've never read anything like it, and yeah, I did not see that ending coming. The final book is Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. I feel like this book has gotten a lot of hype over the last 2 years, so I was worried it might be a little bit overrated, and look, I wasn't crazy about the ending, but the experience of reading this story was absolutely beautiful. The story follows a young girl called Kaya who grows up on the marsh. She's very at one with nature, very independent, and you just follow her through the story growing up. The structure of this book is something I love. There's 2 timelines going on simultaneously. One is the present day and one is the future, and as you read on, these 2 timelines get closer and closer together, which makes it even more gripping to read, because some of the answers you've been waiting for are getting closer and closer and more apparent. There is a bit of a slow start at the beginning, which a lot of people mentioned about this book, because for a while it's just very descriptive without too many events happening. But once the story gets kicked off and those 2 timelines start to converge, it gets super interesting. So I really enjoyed reading it, and the cover is beautiful too, which is good for me because I definitely do judge a book by its cover. So if you want a little bit of escapism, a story in a setting that you might not be that familiar with, and an element of mystery and intrigue throughout as well, then this is definitely a book you should read. Moving on to some podcasts. First up is Not Overthinking. Not Overthinking is probably my most listened to podcast of all time. I've literally listened to every single episode. It is hosted by Ali Abdaal, who is a doctor, or ex-doctor now, and YouTuber, and his brother Taimur, who runs a startup. These brothers are extremely intelligent and very articulate in my opinion as well, as they discuss absolutely everything and anything to do with the human condition, how we interact with each other, and how we get what we want from our lives. One of the coolest things I ever learnt from their discussions was this concept of transactional analysis, which talks about how we all have these 3 personas within us: the parent, the adult, and the child. And these personas come out at different times in different interactions. They talk about how one of our 3 personas is interacting with another person and one of their 3 personas, and that interaction is called a transaction. And when there is a mismatch in this transaction, so say your parent is interacting with someone's child, there can be conflict and clash, and it really breaks down loads of familiar scenarios that you might find yourself in, day out, into this very simplistic and interesting way of thinking. It's super fascinating. I couldn't possibly go into it all right now. So if you, like me, like to overthink pretty much every part of being a human, discussed in a very candid, honest and relaxed way, then this podcast would be great for you. The next podcast is one I discovered pretty recently, but it's pretty much dominated all my podcast listening over the last couple of months, and that is The Diary of a CEO by Stephen Bartlett. Stephen Bartlett himself is a CEO and a very successful businessman. As you can imagine, he interviews lots of other CEOs, interviewing them about how they got to where they are, and generally what it's like to be them and how their life unfolded. My favourite episodes are with Patricia Bright, Anne Bowden, CEO of Starling Bank, Jimmy Carr, the comedian, Jacqueline Gold, CEO of Ann Summers, and most recently even Molly May. The stories these guys tell are damn inspiring, but what I really love is Stephen's interviewing style. He is so eloquent and so insightful, and he draws out such interesting things from all these guests. And it's not just about how much money they're making or what their daily routine is. It's about their upbringing, their childhood, what happened to make them the person they are today. And now I know it, no matter what episode I click on, even if I've never heard of that person before, I'm going to enjoy it because the storytelling element of the interview is so strong. So this is a big recommend for me if you just love hearing about people's lives. The next podcast is a big change of topic, and it won British Podcast of the Year in 2020. That is Brown Girls Do It Too. This podcast is an open and candid and very honest discussion between a group of South Asian females talking about one of the biggest taboos in South Asian culture, sex. These girls do not hold back, and I really appreciated hearing the good, the bad, and the ugly of women and their sexuality discussed by people who felt so close to home, something which I know lots of other brown girls never had growing up. I found myself laughing through every episode because these girls have such a great sense of humour, but be warned, there is nothing off limits, so this is not for the very young or the faint-hearted. But I think it's such important work that these women are doing to normalise these discussions and break the silence in the South Asian space. The final podcast in this video is nowhere near as racy or glamorous as the last couple of ones, but it basically changed the way I think about life on a daily basis forever. So I had to include it in this video, and that is the principles of charity. I actually wrote a whole newsletter on this principle, so if you want to go and read that, then please check out the link in my description below and subscribe if you enjoyed the read. The principles of charity are some ancient philosophy which basically state that in a discussion, a heated discussion between two people, you shouldn't be seeking to win the argument, you should be seeking to find the truth. And that sounds all very grandiose and not very practical, but the premise is really simple. It states that the way to do this is to first charitably interpret the opposing person's point of view. In other words, you first try to reasonably understand why that person thinks the way they are. And that all relies on an even simpler premise that I really don't think we do very much as a society these days, and that is to assume the other person is intelligent. And I know what you're thinking, I'm a good person, of course I don't think people are beneath me or not intelligent or whatever. But honestly, looking at the world around us these days and how divided we are about everything, it really is obvious that one side does not give the time of day to even hear what the other side has to say anymore, because they simply don't even believe that argument is valid. The way the podcast works is the hosts bring on two speakers who have opposing views, and first the speaker must charitably interpret the opposing person's point of view, and the other person then must do the same for the other speaker, which I think just sets up such a nice way to have discussions. They cover a whole range of topics, some of which are very spicy. We've got, is it moral to eat meat? Is there good pornography, or is it inherently demeaning to women? Should we put a dollar value on human life? And should we fight climate change or adapt to its inevitability? And I think all of these questions immediately fire up a reaction in you because they are quite polarizing. And this podcast is trying to dampen down that immediate reaction, that knee-jerk reaction, which I think never leads to a proper discussion, and it's more two sides just speaking at each other. This way of thinking has been put into so much practice recently because I just keep bumping into anti-vaxxers and I just want to take them and I just want to scream. And I mean, I've been much more open to discussion with them and trying to understand why they think the way they do. But for real, just get the vaccine, like it literally saves lives and prevents hospitalization and reduces the severity of symptoms. And next, moving on to technology. So first up is this drone, or rather the box of this drone, which is the DJI Mini 2. I've been fascinated by drones for a long time, but I definitely thought they were very much out of my remit and more something only professionals can use. But then one of my friends in Australia, in Brisbane, brought one to one of our hikes, and he was taking some footage of us once we got to the peak at the end of the hike, and I was blown away by how easy it was to use, how stunning the footage was, and how small the device was and what kind of heights it could go to. So I pretty much went and bought the exact same one. And full disclosure, I've not actually used my one yet, but I have used his on a few occasions now because I really wanted to make sure I knew how to use it before I took mine out and crashed it into trees or civilians passing by. I'm not going to go into a full tech review because I can't, like, I don't know what I'm talking about, but I can show you the basics. So just want to show you just how small and compact it is. If I can open it, this is so embarrassing. This looks like such a fake favorites video because I clearly have no clue what I'm doing. So yeah, this is how small it is. It shoots in 4K video. Each battery has about 20 to 30 minutes of battery life, and this came with 3 batteries, and it set me back around 350 to 400 pounds, which is definitely the cheapest drone for this kind of quality that you can get on the market. So I absolutely love it, and I cannot wait to start getting footage for my YouTube videos with this. Nothing says you're in your late 20s than talking about a blender in your YouTube videos. I'm not joking, I think this is my favorite purchase of the whole year. This is the Ninja Foodie Blender. I know what you're thinking, it's just a blender, how cool can it be? It is really cool, okay? It does so many things. As for most people, my life is very busy and hectic, and all I want are healthy and quick meals, and this thing really gives me that. Essentially what you do is you chop up some onions, not even diced, they can just be quarters, and some butter and spices, and you put them in and it sautés it for 5 minutes. Then you put in some vegetable stock broth and any vegetables you want. So we've had potato and leek, mushroom, tomato, broccoli, carrot and coriander, literally anything that's in season or in the markets. You just pick it up, shove it in the blender, and then it basically blends and heats at the same time for 30 minutes. So once it's chucked in, I'll go shower, get ready, do something, and come back and there is piping hot soup ready, and you've only really used one dish to make it, which is amazing. As well as the hot soups, it also blends smoothies really nicely. You can also make sauces, which we have done. We made a chocolate sauce for the Christmas dinner last night, and apparently there's also ice cream settings on here, so there's loads it can do, and I need to get a life. If you thought me talking about a blender on my YouTube channel was bizarre, wait until you hear me talk about my steam iron. What am I doing? Now, I don't know about you, but I have grown up seeing the traditional iron and ironing board at use. I've seen my parents struggling over that ironing board, trying to iron out those creases, trying to lie it the proper way on the ironing table so that your ironing doesn't create new creases. But no one told me about the magic of steam irons. Don't really know how much more I can talk about this and keep you engaged and interested because it is just a steam iron. So I think I'm gonna have to iron something. Am I really gonna iron something on my YouTube video? I think it's only fair and it's the right thing to do. Fill it with water, turn it on, and it's ready to go, which is the position I'm in right now. I did find this pesky linen shirt that belongs to Vig, which hopefully you can appreciate is super creased, but let's see the magic of this iron. So I don't really know how to do this. I guess I'll stand. Okay, so I don't know if you can really appreciate that this is much better than it was before. It's not perfect. In the bathroom, when I do the ironing, I just hang it up on the hook, and then the kind of like something to lean on, like that door is something to lean on because you do need it to press on something. I think kind of doing this in midair is quite difficult, but that took literally less than 2 minutes and I think it's already looking pretty good, and I think that's pretty much as I can talk about an iron. Okay, into the miscellaneous section of this favorites video, starting with these sun creams. I finally found some SPFs for my face, which are really good for my skin color and for not leaving a white cast. Dr. Surina briefly coming at you to let you know that you need to protect the skin you're in and protect it from the UV from the sun. Even on cloudy days, there's a lot of UV hitting your face, even when you're indoors, when it's coming through the windows. It can cause damage. At best, wrinkles and sunspots. At worst, things like skin cancers. So you really need to protect yourself. So first up is in Zinkable by Dr. Vanita. Ooh, I'm gonna do the beauty blogger thing. Ooh, focus, focus, yeah. Oh my god, I feel so legit right now. So this is by Dr. Vanita Ratan. She is a qualified doctor but also a cosmetic formulator specifically for skin of color. If any of you watch her YouTube videos, that's literally her exact introduction. That's how many videos I've watched. But yes, she is a South Asian female doctor who has created lots of skincare products, and this is the first and only one so far that I've bought. This is a mineral SPF 50 sun cream with UVA and UVB protection, and I haven't got any left. It's all finished, so I don't think I can show you anything. But essentially, it just melts onto your skin, it leaves no white cast, and it gives you a really nice dewy finish. Unfortunately, shipping is quite expensive if you're outside of the UK, so I haven't been able to stock up on any. So I looked for some that were available in Australia, and another one that Dr. Vinita recommended was the one by Colour Science, and this is the Sunforgettable Total Protection SPF 30. They have a 50 somewhere, but I couldn't find it available anywhere near me, so I got the SPF 30. So I'll insert some footage of me putting this on because I want to show you just how nicely it melts into the skin and doesn't leave any white residue. Now, not only should you be putting on sun cream when you start your day, you need to be reapplying it throughout the day as well. Obviously, if you're putting on makeup and things, it's very hard to then keep putting on sun cream. Colour Science do this really cool brush-on sun cream, which I carry with me every day. It's very small, very compact, and this can go on top of makeup. So it's actually a brush, and it's got some powder here at the back, and you just kind of shake it to get the powder onto the brush, and then you just brush it onto your skin, and it's pretty much translucent. There is a bit of a sort of light brownish tinge. You can get this in different shades. I think there's fair, medium and dark, and it gives you that topped up SPF protection throughout the day. So yeah, I think these basically tick all the boxes for SPF protection that I'm looking for. Next is another beauty product that I use literally every single day, and this is the Charlotte Tilbury Hyaluronic Happy Kiss, I think it's called, and this is in the shade Pillow Talk, which is one of Charlotte Tilbury's most famous shades. She has a whole range of lip colours and eyeshadows in this colour, and I basically just thought it was a lot of hype about this shade Pillow Talk, about how it suits every single skin tone, but actually I have to agree, it really does. This is kind of a cross between a lip gloss and a lipstick. I really don't like lipsticks very much. I feel like I basically look like a clown when I wear them, so this hybrid thing is perfect for me. In fact, I will just top up now to show you. So it's super smooth and buttery without being sticky at all. It just kind of hydrates the lips and gives a pop of colour, and it just goes so nicely with everything really. Right, next up is Super Rogue, very not me, and that is these Birkenstocks. This is very Brisbane fashion, maybe it's Australia fashion, but I live in Brisbane, so that's all I know. And I saw everyone wearing these all the time when I got here, and I was like, that's not really me. It's a bit too biblical, to be honest. But a couple of months in and I cracked. Saw everyone walking with their free feet and their airy toes. That's a weird thing to say. I got myself a pair and I love them. They are so comfortable. These are from their vegan range, and I found the more I've worn them as well, the more my foot's kind of molded into the soles of the shoe. So they've just got more and more comfortable the more I've worn them, and yeah, I'm just always ready for a Last Supper. Next up is this water bottle. So it's one of those water bottles that has got the times on them for how much you should be drinking at certain times. This is one of those incredibly simple things that you'll see someone using and you're like, oh, does it really work? And yes, some days I don't really pay attention to it, but on most days actually it's made such a big difference to how much water I drink. With the nature of my job, it's very easy to go the whole day and be more dehydrated than any of your patients. Having this bottle has forced me to kind of bring it with me, bring it to the ward, put it on the nurse's station, somewhere where I can see it, and then every time I walk past, I'm kind of in competition with myself, which really appeals to my personality, and I'm drinking little and often throughout the day to try and keep up with the times. So it actually really works. It's got a little kind of straw thingy, which I love. I hate the ones which are kind of unscrew and have to pour on you, and it just ends up going all over my face when I'm kind of out and about trying to drink on the move. But this one you can just kind of take out, have a quick sip. One of life's simple pleasures that actually makes a big difference, so I really recommend. Last but not least, this was the year I discovered how nice pajamas feel. I've spent the best part of 26 years just wearing old t-shirts from that weird summer camp you went to that one time. but actually intentionally buying pajamas is something I've never been that big on until this year. These are my favourite pair I got this year. They are super silky, super soft, and they are from Chelsea Piers, which is, I believe, a UK online website where they sell pajamas, and for every pair of pajamas you purchase, they plant a tree, which is always nice. So yeah, these have made bedtime significantly more comfy. So that is everything. That's all my favorites of 2021. I will include links of everything I've talked about in the description below. Let me know if there's anything there that you've tried that you like, or any recommendations you have. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. So if you're interested in that, make sure you subscribe